All right, guys, so I've got some ideas to help you guys be able to run the circuit more efficiently. All right. So what I've done, I've went ahead and went through, most of my warframes that I think would be well suited for this mission, and I've created specific builds for each one. All right. And I'm hoping, if it's not a thing already, that maybe they could implement it, that we could set a specific loadout to be the default in the cave. All right. Or if maybe it would just automatically load up the one that we choose the most. Like if we, consistently go in there and pick, whatever slot it is, then it'll just automatically know that's the one they're going to want. So then I would be able to just run up, grab the frame, and not have to even worry about looking at the mods because I already know what loadout it gets picked for me. You know what I'm saying? That'd be much faster, especially, whenever you have people that are impatient and they just want to go, go, go. You know what I'm saying? It's so frustrating. Now, quite a few times, I've came in, and what they've started to do now is when they're ready, they'll walk up near the door, and then that way, they can all see if someone's still trying to pick their gear, right? Uh, that is called teamwork. Really important, and I really hope more and more people start to implement that as a strategy, because you do not want to go in to this mission specifically when people aren't ready. Uh, so you're going to want to have your entire squad 100% ready, all right? Or else you're not ready. Um, keep in mind, we're doing Steel Path, all right? So it definitely requires planning. Like, you cannot just run in there, grab, 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 and take off, all right? It doesn't work that way. You are going to get demolished if you try to do that. Unless your intrinsics are maxed out. Now, I complained a lot in the forums about the system. And what they said during the dev stream was that, a lot of people don't realize that the intrinsics will actually make up for the difference of you not being able to have specific gear that you want to use. All right. I didn't know that. And I think most people wouldn't know that. They would probably just go in and see there's nothing here I want. I'm going to take off, which happened actually yesterday. Um, and that just completely wrecked the mission. Like, I was stuck in loading screen after loading screen, host migration. Then I tried to reload back again. It loaded back and nothing happened. Like, we were all there, but no mission was started because of that host migration. Because someone didn't get the stuff he wanted. Um, and it's like I'm saying right now, if you have access to a lot of frames, you really should take the time beforehand and do this, which is what I'm getting ready to show you right now. I have about 15 frames we're going to go through very quickly. There's just a couple things that I wanted to prioritize in my builds. The first thing I noticed was energy issues. All right. So you do not want to be stuck with a CC frame with no energy. Because if you get hit with a defense, or, that's especially the worst one, to have a CC frame with no energy, that's not good. All right. They could tear the pot apart in seconds. So I have a lot of frames with dispensary. All right. Especially the frames with really good CC. Just to make sure I can put a dispensary down and then I can use my abilities. All right. So that's the first thing. The other thing is Molt Augmented. I have put that on a lot of frames, especially the ones that can, has pretty good damage output. So let's go ahead and start taking a look at some of these builds. I'm just going to point out a couple of things that I prioritized. Arcane Energize is on every single one of these builds, every one, along with Molt Augmented. All right. Energy Conversion, that is a great mod because it has no negative side effect. Anytime you pick up energy orbs, it is going to increase your power strength by 50%. All right. So great mod to have right there. Now, this Octavia is not my, I haven't put a lot of work into her. The regular Octavia, though, I have. Like, she's been out for a lot longer. All right. So what I was wondering here was, do I need Resonator for this? Or her third ability? Because right now I have Pillage on there. Which I did that a while back. I think that might be okay, especially because, she's mainly, her main purpose right now is for defense. For when defense comes up, so that I can put the mallet down, use Pillage, and then that should help, weaken the enemies so that, we can tear them apart. All right. So that's the plan here. So another thing that all of these builds have in common is preparation. All right. That is, preparation actually works. I actually tested it out. I know some of these types of modes, like it doesn't work, like ESO or something like that, it doesn't work in there. So that's not going to work. However, there is something that will work regardless to get you more energy starting out. For something like ESO, what you want there is to have as much remaining mod points as possible. All right. Um, every little bit of mod points you have left over, that's going to add up to more energy starting out. They did say at one point they were going to add, or they did add something in the UI to tell you what your starting energy is, and that your excess mod point capacity would add to that. But I haven't seen it. So if you guys could find that, please let me know. All right. So for Rhino, his goal is basically to use Stomp and CC as much area as possible for as long as possible. All right. Going into this, that was the main goal, CC and then damage. But we could have a whole squad full of DPS frames, but with no CC. If we don't kill the squad fast enough, then they're gonna wreck our pod, and then it's game over. You know what I'm saying? And if we go, 6 or 7 rounds, and then we hit a defense, that's not very good. What I did notice though is that on the next round screen, if you look under it, it tells you what the next type of mission is. So if you're like 6 or 7 rounds in and you see a defense come up, especially if you're in Steel Path, you probably should take off. Right now, a lot of times, we would be like 3 rounds in and it's like a void flood or a survival or something like that. And I'm like, let's keep going. But nope, they want to leave. I don't understand that. Like, why can't we extend this thing out? Because if we all have decent frames, the only thing we have to worry about there is like everyone dying and running out of revives. All right. Or running out of life support, which I would like to actually test that. And see what happens if you're in a survival in the circuit and you run out of air. Would it just extract you and then that's it? Or was it mission fail? Because, I don't know, like, there's no extraction point. So that could be just game over. It could just say mission failed. You ran out of life support. All right. So that wouldn't be a good thing either. But as long as we have at least some good DPS frames, then you should be fine, for real. Hildren. I love Hildren. And as you can see, I have a lot of blue shards on Hildren. And as a matter of fact, a lot of these frames, I'm eventually going to start pouring my shards into them, because I've been doing, my weekly Archon shard missions like every single time. I have been collecting as many as possible. I know a lot of people hates the blue shards. I don't understand why. All right. They are not useless. If you have something like Arcane Barrier, right, which has a 6% chance to instantly restore all shields, you want to have a lot of shields, because the more shields you have, the more chances you have of getting that to proc and getting all your shields back. All right. I, however, have not put all those shards into shields. So what I've done instead is I've actually split them up. Okay. So I have shield, health, and health. Right. I wanted her to have as much shields and health as possible. All right. So I've also never been a fan of Aegis Storm. I knew it had some CC capability. I just never used it. I never liked it. All right. However, during a pretty intense circuit mission, we were being overran, and I was trying Terrify or something, I think it was, that I had, Helmuth into the build. And it wasn't working very well. Like, I could get some of the guys to leave us alone, but other than that, like, we were getting swarmed. All right. Until I started using this, I was like, well, I have a CC thing in here. I just never paid much attention to it. And let me tell you what, it works. Like, that was a game changer when I started using that. So this time I've actually modded her as a CC frame. All right. I've modded her to have some range and duration. All right. So, and since she can move around, that's going to be perfect. All right. The other thing I did is I added on Streamline. Reason being, like, using that was just annihilating her shield. So she definitely needs a lot of efficiency. All right. What she needs to have, though, is the Tau Ford shards for her shield shards. All right. She definitely needs a lot of shields for this build to work better. Rolling guard is also something that I've heavily prioritized. All right. Just for the simple fact, like, that is a great survival tool right there. All right. So, and as you can see, like I have a full Umbra build on my Hildren. Like that's how much I like Hildren. Um, she is a great frame. You know, I love the fact that, you know, she's without abilities, she's the best tank in the game, without a doubt. She doesn't need to use abilities to be able to tank a lot of damage. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to find another frame that can do that without abilities. But the reason why I like that is because, you know, you can fall off a cliff, you can get, you know, swarmed with nullifiers, with anything else. They can't mess with you. All right. You know, they're not going to take her survivability away from her. You know, and if she starts taking a lot of damage, you just roll, get out of the area, and then, you know, try and pick them off at a distance. You know what I'm saying? The other thing I want to go ahead and address, even though I'm not really utilizing a lot of builds for this, I have implemented it a little bit, and that is shield gating. So I watched a video from Nightmare Frame recently. I think it was about a week ago. Really interesting video. He watched someone complaining about shield gating. Made a lot of inaccurate points about it. And I was one of them. I was the same way, not exactly, but quite a bit, because I didn't understand how it worked. Because I had watched a video that was an older video that I just didn't process that. I didn't think about that was a mechanic that could have already been, you know, changed or fixed or whatever. And it was. Like, shield gating a long time ago was much different than it is now. Like, I'm not sure. Like, before, you could have so much shield regen, right, that you could just stand there and do absolutely nothing, and have your shields just constantly, you know, they would have like almost no shields at all, and then it would just constantly drain, get the shield gate, and then it would fill back up, and then just constantly repeating that. I think you could just stand there, and it was like, we are invincible right now, right? I'm sure you guys probably have seen that video. I don't remember, you know, what it was or anything like that. If I can find it, I'll put a link to it, but just know that doesn't work anymore, all right? Because they added a delay, I think is what they've done, for your shields to start building back up again. All right. So, and the delay may even keep increasing as you keep doing that. So, like, even if you're able to, you know, survive a few times by utilizing the shield gate, it's eventually just going to fall apart. You're going to die. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't work anymore. Like, that's the main point. I don't know exactly what they've done, but it's a lot more skill now in order to achieve that. So now, in order to utilize shield gating, the best way to do it is to have auger mods or brief respite. So I know I didn't pronounce that right. Look, I don't care. All right. I'm going to pronounce things the way I do, the way things are more comfortable for me to say. You know what I'm saying? I think it's brief respite, so that's what I'm going to say. All right. Y'all leave me alone. But look, those are tools to help you accomplish that goal. So it is not a set and forget it kind of thing. You're going to die instantly if you have that mentality. And that's what I ran into. I was posting in the forums, and people were correcting me because I was making some incorrect statements about shield gating. And I was saying that, you know, they need to fix this because everyone else is relying on skill and gameplay, and they're just face tanking everything and not having to worry about nothing. No. And they started correcting me on these points. You need to actually experience and learn about shield gating before you start complaining about it. I was unaware. I thought I knew exactly what shield gating was because I'd seen in the video. You know what I'm saying? That's not it at all. Now, once you start taking damage, you have to start using a lot of energy to rebuild your shields, to keep your shields at max. So that if you take fatal damage, you will get your shield gate. Your shields will break, it'll stop the damage, and then you will start using your abilities just constantly, trying to keep your shields at max. One thing Nightmare Frame didn't mention, and I wish he would have, he might have, but I might not have just caught it. Your shields have to be at max in order to get the shield gate. If your shields are halfway max, you get no shield gate.
Point of shields left over, the shield is of course going to break, but it's gonna absorb all the damage from that hit. And in the process, when your shield breaks, you will get immunity to damage for 1.3 seconds. All of this, of course, excludes toxin damage because toxin bypasses shields by default, so keep that one in mind. So, your shield breaks, you get 1.3 seconds of invulnerability, and if your shield recharges to full and then breaks again, you get another 1.3 seconds of invulnerability, and so on and so forth. However, if your shield doesn't fully recharge and then breaks again, you only get 0.3, which is basically not really useful.
You're just going to go into your health, you're probably going to die. Especially if you're worried about shield gate, yeah, you're toast. All right, if you need to have your shield gate going in order to keep you alive, you can't afford to not be watching your shields and everything. Like, you have to really pay attention. If you slip for just a few seconds, you're toast. And for Saren, like, that's the build that I've been working on, is having a really good shield gate build, because she's very squishy. Like, she will die instantly. And I really hate it. She is, so to me, I'm not the best builder in the world. Like, there's people who can mod things a lot better than I can. But so for me, though, she's like a glass cannon. All right, she does a ton of damage, but she can't take any real damage at all. She's just toast. All right. So as you can see, all of these builds, they say circuit on them. So that might be another way that they could implement it to prioritize certain loadouts. So maybe we could have a setting in the cave, cave modification or something, and have it, say what your preferred loadout, right? And then we give it a name, and then we say circuit. If we could do that, then anytime it loads up something like Hildren here, who has a loadout called circuit, then it would know circuit's the default loadout. You know what I'm saying? That would be a great addition, or at least something for the game to know beforehand. I want this loadout to always be the default. So, maybe they could just add a UI screen to, of course, that would probably be a lot more complex, to have a thing to where we could go and select like each and every single frame we have and select the default loadout for that thing. Because then you're looking at the weapons, right? They would probably have to implement that for the weapons. That would probably be a nightmare. So I really don't think they would want to go down that road. Probably a much easier solution would be to just name the default config, so that if it finds that loadout config, it'll just automatically set that as the default. And then it'll know, every single time, circuit is the default configuration for this item. So if I have a weapon, and I also want to have a specific loadout for that, for the circuit, I name it circuit, and then the game already knows there's a loadout in here called circuit. That's the default config, because this player already has told the game, right, has told us this is what they want. So now, if they would implement at least something that we would know for a fact beforehand, we go up to something, it's Hildren. I know Hildren has a loadout called circuit, so I know that's going to be the default. I could just run up and grab it, run through the weapons and grab it and take off and go, and I know exactly what I've got. You know what I'm saying? That would be a perfect solution. All right. Also, I did suggest in the forums about having the option to reload back into the cave. All right. And they addressed that during the dev stream, but apparently that was too complex. All right. They got to keep in mind, we don't understand all the complexities and all of, what it takes to implement things that we might think is like really easy, but there's a lot of, coding and game development and everything else that goes into it. Right. So that idea was just based on quality of life. Right. But what if they made the cave a hub to run that mission? The same way Cetus works, the same way all the other hubs work, to where you go into a hub, you select a mission, you form a squad, and you go into the open world and then do the mission, right? Or their bounties or whatever it is you're doing. What if they made the cave to work that way, or made it an additional cave that would work that way, to where we could all go in, right? We could take our time, go through, pick what we want, and then go up to a terminal and say, let's start a mission, right? Let's go and do a Steel Path circuit mission. We've already picked what we want. We've picked our first decree. We're ready to go. Let's start a mission now. Then we'll just run through the portal, and then as other people start running through the portal, we'll start forming squads. Then, when you're done with the mission and you hit extract, guess what? Just the same way that other open worlds work, where would you go when you're done with the mission? Right back to the hub. You know what I'm saying? So if they could do that, I think that would be a great way to fix a lot of these issues we're having. All right. I would say that's not so much of a suggestion, like that's a request. Like, we need that. You know what I'm saying? let us have some fun with this thing. Like, I'm actually starting to love the idea of, taking the time beforehand, fixing up all these builds so that I can go in and possibly, bring something I wouldn't normally use, right? But I have taken the time beforehand, figured out, how it works, what it's good at, what it's not good at, and focused on how I can make that useful. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's a great thing. The only thing I think they need to do is to have a few more spawns for your frames and weapons, especially the weapons. Like, the frames I can deal with, because as I'm starting to see now, like, I have a lot of good frames with a lot of good builds now, or at least decent. Like, I'm sure you guys could build your loadouts a lot better than these, all right? But I can tell you this, my builds are going to be a lot better in there compared to, anyone else who hasn't taken the time beforehand to set up specific loadouts for this specific mission, all right? My builds are going to be far superior, usually, unless they're just really good at building, you know what I'm saying? Which I'm not the best, all right? But that's why I'm taking the time now, going through and setting all this stuff up, all right? So I think this is going to be really helpful for you guys. I would like to see a lot more people be more confident and go into later rounds, all right? One thing that I think we need, though, I think this should give us a lot more intrinsics than it does. Like, it really doesn't give you very much. One last thing I'm going to say about the incarnate adapters, I really don't like the way that they've done it, right? Because like as Lazar Gaming said, he wanted to put the adapters on two different Brattons, I think it was, or it was either the Bratton or the Paris, I think, or it was a bow or something like that, right? But he wanted to put it on both, and he said, but I have to wait like 6 or 8 weeks before it comes back again so I can get another one, right? That is a terrible design choice, to have it time gated like that, and we don't have any influence at all as to what we get. All right. Now here's a suggestion that they could do, right? What if we were able to get an intrinsic that would allow us to re-roll our choices, right? So we get a screen that tells us we can choose between 5 options, right? Well, what if we had an intrinsic that allowed us to take those choices away and give us 5 different choices, right? We don't like 2 choices from there, then we could do that one more time with a pretty high intrinsic, of course, and then say we get one last chance. If we still don't like what we see on the screen, then we just have to roll with it. All right, we have to pick something, or we just skip that week because there's not anything there that we want, which would be ridiculous because from what I've seen, like, there's some really good rewards in there. So it's not even like we're saying, all the rewards are bad, everything's bad, the whole thing is garbage. We're not saying that at all. At least I'm not. The only thing I'm saying is, like, if I want a specific adapter, I don't want to have to wait, 8 weeks or a month before I can get the daggone thing, right? They also mentioned before the Stug. They did. I'm pretty sure. I heard them say they were talking about the adapters, and they said for anyone who likes the Stug, they're going to love this, right? Well, where is it? I looked, I watched someone read through the list, and I didn't hear them mention the Stug. They might have, and I might have missed it. If I missed it, please let me know. I really want a Stug adapter. And I also want it to be good. So that's the other thing I'm wondering about. Like, how is it going to function for you to be able to transform it, right? Because usually they want headshots. Well, that would be a terrible mechanic to have on the Stug, all right? With the Stug, you don't want headshots, right? As Lazar Gaming displayed, you want to actually spread out your bubbles, which is the way I've always used it anyways, right? Like, the way I've always used it was you have a big clump of enemies. You want to just spray that thing across all of them. That's the way I think is the best way to use it, all right? That way so you get a lot of coverage, and each bubble is its own damage instance. I do think that the mechanic of it should change. If you stack the bubbles, like, they should all explode individually, and they should amp the damage of each bubble. If they made that simple change, the Stug could be really, really great. Right now, it's a pea shooter. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys a few more builds, and then we're going to end it there. All right. I'm just going to go through these pretty quickly because I've already rambled on quite a bit. All right. Valblin is one I hope I end up getting a lot more often. Valblin would be a great frame for this. As well, Korra is a great one to have. Saren might be okay, but like I said, she's kind of like a glass cannon. Um, Revenant, not so much. Um, he has good damage output, but not really any CC. However, if he's the best choice I get, like, I'll take him. Simply because we have this right here, Ensnare. So I know we do have some CC capabilities here, right? So I get a big group of enemies, I ensnare them, and then I read through them, right? Um, and I think actually, sometimes I actually will enthrall those guys first, because I think that actually amplifies the damage when you read through them, all right? So ensnare, enthrall, and then reeve, all right? And of course, keeping your mesmer skin on. So as you can see, like I have configured a lot of frames. I have configured 20 different frames, all with a circuit loadout. All right. That is really good odds. At least one of these frames are going to spawn. All right. Um, so it's like I said, I am really well prepared this time than what I was before. Um, because what I was doing before is I would see a frame, I would go up to it, and then I would pull up the mod screen, right? And then try and figure out, okay, which one's going to be the best for this, right? Which one has a maxed preparation? Which one has this? Which one has that? I don't have to worry about that now. Because I know as soon as I see one that says circuit, I know that specific loadout is made specifically for this type of mission. All right. My Frost right here has lull. I don't know how well that's going to work in this mission, but I will find out eventually. Um, so I will be putting down lots of snow globes and then using lull to try and, put the rest of the map to sleep. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's my goal here. Then, of course, I have Chilling Globe on. All right. So pretty simple stuff. Hopefully, you guys don't make fun of me too much about my builds. I think they're decent. I'm sure a lot of you guys could make way better builds. By all means, put in the comments and share your opinions. All right. I'm definitely not saying like these are written in stone. Like you have to have these loadouts in order to succeed. I'm not saying that at all. The only thing I'm saying is with these loadouts, you're going to be much better off than someone who doesn't have, a specific loadout for this mission. All right. Main reason is, some people, especially when they're new at it, they don't take into account you don't have access to gear. So you can't just put down energy pizzas, shield pizzas, like you don't have any of that stuff. All right. I thought about modding Ember. However, if I see Ember, I'm going to skip her. I'm not going to play with Ember. Like it would have to be all Embers in order for me to pick Ember. All right. Um, that sounds harsh, but I can't help it. When they reworked Ember, I put her on the shelf and she will collect dust. All right. Along with Wukong. When they reworked Wukong, I stopped using him. I said, you know what? His survivability was too good with Defy, so that he's done. All right. Like that, he was a one-trick pony, right? I know that. But he was really good at it. Like he could take a lot of damage. As you can see, I have a lot of banshees in here. I can't bring myself to sell them. I just can't. I put so much work into these banshees. And as you can see, like if you look at the focused lenses, you'll know why I have so many banshees. All right. That was, back in the day when, before they reworked her augment, right? So she used to be really good at getting focus points, like really, really good. Not anymore. So now I have a bunch of banshees that I just won't sell. Like I can't sell them. I don't know why. Like I could sell them, but it just seems like a waste. Such a waste of time and effort I put into building these things. Putting all these, like, look at all the formats, 5, 4, 4, 4. Like that's a lot of time spent. And the and the focus lenses too. Like these all have like really high upgraded focus lenses. All right. But hopefully, if Banshee spawns, it won't spawn these. Hopefully, it'll spawn this one. This Banshee, I actually have a circuit loadout for. All right, and it's focusing on CC. So I'm not using the augment. So that means I will be able to use it similar to the way it was before, where she just holds the ground and shakes everything to pieces. All right. So she would be another great CC frame, I think. I'll know for sure once she actually loads up where I can test her out in there. All right. We did make a loadout for Mesa, but I don't think I need to show Mesa. Like, she's pretty simple. All right. Mag is a frame I haven't used in a very long time, but I did go ahead and make a circuit loadout for her. All right. So I think Mag, while she's using her crush ability, that is, I think this would function as a CC ability and a DPS ability. All right, at least that's the hope. I'm hoping, like, if I stand near the pod and I'm crushing everything and pulling them closer, because I also have pull on here. Of course, I did it, helmet that off, right? Because that's really a great ability, right? So I'm going to be pulling them in and then crushing them to death, hopefully. Like, that's the plan, anyways. I don't know too much about these other abilities, magnetize and polarize. If you guys could let me know if one of these two abilities here, or maybe both of them, would help the crushing, right? That's the main thing. Like, I want to be able to crush them to death instantly. Of course, that's not going to happen. But we do have Molt Augmented on, like I said, on all of these builds. That way, so I can keep scaling up my power strength. But as of right now, it's not really going to matter much because people only like to go 1 or 2 rounds and take off. Maybe it's because they don't realize they've patched the bugs where it was progress stoppers in between rounds. They have seemed to fix all that. All right. Okay, so now we're going to talk about Wisp. All right. Now, I am not that great with Wisp. I haven't put very much work into her. What I'm hoping to do with her is specifically the shock mode. I'm hoping to give the shock mode to the squad and let them run around shocking everything and stun locking them. All right. That's the goal here. So now let's talk about Limbo. All right. So here's a frame that I have never really liked. All right. For obvious reasons. Reason why most people don't like Limbo. All right. So look, I watched a video recently that was great detail about, the changes he's went through, the reason why people hated Limbo, is it justified or whatever else. And then they were explaining how his abilities work, how they work now since all of his reworks and everything. As they were going through all that, I just kept going, what? You know what I'm saying? Like, it is so confusing. I don't understand it. If we have any scientists here, please put in the comments and explain how Limbo works, right? Because I don't understand it. The only thing I'm hoping to do with Limbo, if he's the best choice, is to put the pod into the rift, and then that's it. That's my main goal. Just to keep them from destroying the pod. Like, after that, I don't really know what the best plan is for him. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't want to put the enemies in the rift because then they could damage the pod. Unless I leave the pod out, put the enemies in the rift, but then it's like the squad mates can't really damage the enemies or something. I don't really know what the plan is for him. I really think, though, if anyone picks Limbo, that's probably the end of the mission. Like, everyone's probably just going to quit. You know what I'm saying? Just because of the bad rap that he's received. All right. So, probably this one may not be a great choice for anyone to pick. All right. Unless they're, they don't care about people leaving the mission and wrecking it. All right. So that's definitely a last resort right there. If all the other frames, I don't have or I just don't like at all, then maybe I'll try them, but we'll see how that goes. Now, all of these frames down here, I didn't mess with. Naros, Valkyr, Ash, Ureli, Octavia I did, of course. All right, I didn't do Chroma. Of course, I have a build for Korra. So I have 2 different Korras. I have the regular Korra and I have Korra Prime. And I really think what might be, if I was planning on selling the original Korra, right? But I'm thinking now I might go ahead and leave the best CC frames and just have copies of them. Because that just might give me better odds of getting a really good CC frame. All right. Definitely got to have at least someone in the squad with decent CC. All right. Or else you'll get pretty far in. You get a defense, everyone's going to leave. You know what I'm saying? That's for sure. Unless the squad is comfortable, we have a Korra, or we have a Frost, or we have a Volvin, right? We have someone that can lay down some really good CC. there was one frame in here that I had Helmuth in the ability from Equinox. All right. And I'm thinking that might be better than Lull, which is a sleeping ability, right? So I'm thinking to Helmuth in, even the frames that I don't like or wouldn't use, to Helmuth in either Lull or Rest in Rage, right? Because of this augment right here. Killing an affected enemy causes the effect to spread to enemies within 5 meters for 100% of the remaining duration. All right. I think that would be a pretty good augment to have on like every frame that isn't normally built for CC. All right. Also, want to address something else because I don't remember who it was, but I watched a video where they were saying that when you Helmuth in an ability, you can't use their augment mod. You absolutely can. All right. 100%. There's like, it's universal. If you have the ability, you have access to the augment mod if you own it. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and verify that for you guys. So here we go, y'all. As you can see, we have Zephyr. See Zephyr? We have Terrify, Helmuth in. And then we have Creeping Terrify. There you go. Creeping Terrify is on Zephyr. We didn't go through Zephyr yet, so let's go over what I've done to her. All right. So what we have here is Reefer Sprite in order to get, access to a little bit better shield gating. So basically, if I start taking heavy damage, then I'm going to start casting abilities like really, really fast in order to build my shields back up. All right. And we also have Barrier to help achieve that goal. So we have lots of power strength and some range. That's basically it. All right. And of course, preparation. So I actually got stuck with Baruch one time, right? I don't have a clue how to play Baruch, all right? He is not a good choice for me, all right? But here's final 2 topics I'm going to go ahead and talk about here, all right? So what ability do you guys think would be the best for non-CC frames to give them a CC ability, right? Like Lull or Rest in Rage or something like that to put the enemies to sleep or, ensnare or something like that. Other than that, the other thing is the weapons. I really think, there are just so many weapons, right? That I think it's not asking for too much to have, to be able to, for the game to see what your most used weapons are and have a slightly higher chance of spawning those weapons specifically, right? There's just so many that so far, like, I've only gotten a few options for weapons that I actually like. All right. I hate single fire weapons. I really don't like them. I like automatic weapons. All right. And it almost always wants to give me sniper rifles, that kind of thing. And I don't like them. As far as the melees, like it's usually like daggers or swords or something like that, right? But I want my Hattori Hanzo sword. That's what I like to use, right? This thing right here. I'm sure you guys seen the movie Kill Bill. That's what this is named after. This is, what if Hattori Hanzo made a thing like this? This is what he would make. You know what I'm saying? This thing is incredibly powerful. All right. Since I'm talking about it, I guess I'll go ahead and show you guys what I have here. Now, this is the Plague Crit Bath. All right. And we have 115% critical chance, over 4 times multiplier on that. And I mean, this thing does a lot of damage. All right. And we have a ribbon on it. So with this ribbon, we're getting range, melee damage, and electric. So yeah, I mean, my personal opinion, like, this is my favorite sword in the whole game. All right. I'm sure there's other things that would do more damage or whatever else, but this thing's just fun to use. You know what I'm saying? Like, go ahead and build one of these things like this, and you'll see, like, it is, there's no other sword like this. All right. Which is not even really a sword. It's more like a staff with a sword on the end of it. You know what I'm saying? I wanted this thing to be as big as possible, right? Give me the longest stick so I can reach people halfway across the map. That's what I wanted. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I did here. All right. So obviously, if they implemented that change, then I would start to see, the Ignis Wraith, this sword, which I don't even know if kit guns and weapons like that, like this sword right here, are even able to be in there. Hopefully they would be allowed. So if not, I would like to suggest that, because we put a lot of time and effort into building up these things. Let us use them. You know what I'm saying? Like, if they would just have a higher priority of spawning, our kit guns and component based weapons like that, that would be great. The other problem I have, a lot of weapons that spawns, like, I don't know what they are. I don't have a built-in encyclopedia of all the different weapons. There's way too many. So I try to see which ones are automatic and which ones are, semi-automatic or whatever else, right? And usually it's manual fire, right? I would like to, whenever you go to select something, if it would show this right here. They don't need to show the whole list here. The few things it needs to show, though, uh, magazine, ammo max, maybe fire rate, and the trigger. Definitely have to have something showing the trigger component. Whether it's held, if it's, fully automatic, if it's semi-automatic, whatever it is, there needs to be some stats whenever you go to select something. All right. That would be extremely helpful. So please, DE, add that. All right, y'all. That's all I have to say about that.